Okay, well, good evening. It's so great to see so many familiar faces here tonight, and welcome to our webinar on Irresistible Leadership, Mastering the Art of Leadership. So I'm Christy Kotek. I am the Alumni Relations Director here at Roosevelt, and I'm also a alumna myself. So again, just a couple friendly reminders. Please keep your mic muted throughout the presentation, just so we all have the best audio quality. There will be times throughout the presentation where a presenter, Janet, might ask you to unmute and share. So of course, feel free to at those times. Questions are going to be taken throughout the hour. So if you do have questions for Janet, you can go ahead and type those into the chat box, and we'll get to those again throughout the webinar. So now I'd like to introduce our wonderful presenter and leader, Janet Reeves-Wilson. Janet's also a Roosevelt alum and an adjunct professor at the university. She's a business owner of Divine Metamorphosis Coaching, a behavior strategist, a professionally trained life coach, DISC and a certified DISC and Motivators Practitioner and workshop leader. Janet is also a healthcare professional at Northwestern Healthcare prior to becoming a business owner and coach. I have to share a few fun facts about Janet because she shared them with me. So if in her free time, she loves to travel, hang out with her family, and my favorite, dance in the aisles at the grocery store. So I'm just like hanging on to the day that I just run into Janet dancing in the grocery store aisle. And she also shared that if she wasn't teaching or coaching, she would be the lead guitarist in an 80s rock band. So Janet, we're just so honored to have you here today. I don't think we could have like a cooler, classier presenter. So thank you so much for joining. And others might be wondering, just like me, like, what's your favorite 80s rock band?
Rolling Stones, who I got to see in Vegas a couple of years ago. I wanted to see them back in the late 70s, and I missed because I was going to a different concert, but I got a chance to see them like in 2017. It was worth waiting the 40 years that I had to wait to see them. So it was awesome. And thank you again. Thank you, Christy, for that great introduction. And I'd like to thank and welcome everyone to my presentation. I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that if you didn't take the little questionnaire that was sent out with the reminder, you can go ahead and take no more than 5 minutes to do that now. And it'll kind of give you an idea of what behavioral assessments and behaviors are. It kind of, presents you to what that is. So let's see if I can share if I can figure out how to share the screen here. I think this is it. Yes, that's it. Okay, let's see here. From the beginning. Okay, here we go. All right. So, what is leadership anyway? I am going to be talking about the characteristics of an irresistible leader, and I'm going to use irresistible leader and masterful leadership interchangeably. Why build and nurture leadership relationships? And I like this definition that Brene Brown gives of leaders. Leadership is not about titles, status, or wielding power. A leader is anyone that takes responsibility for recognizing the potential in people and ideas and has the courage to develop that potential. And with that definition, we all have the ability to be leaders. And so now this is going to be the little questionnaire that I spoke of a few minutes earlier. If you haven't taken it, then please take no more than 5 minutes to answer the next 10 questions. So the directions are to identify your DISC style, please read across each row and assign the numbers 1, which would mean it's least like you, 2, sometimes like you, 3, many times like you, or 4, most of the time like you, to give each question a score. And use each number only once and take your first thought when deciding your scores. Remember, there's no ideal way to be, and there's no better or worse style to have. So these are the 10 questions here, and just take about 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer because it shouldn't take any more than about 5 minutes to decide. So for example, number 1, I am seen as powerful by others. Number 2, I am, the second column is I am lively and friendly. Column 3, I am calm and easygoing. And column 4, I want to do things accurately. So say if people see you as powerful the majority of the time, then you would put a 4 in that space. If people see you as lively and friendly some of the time, then you would put a 2 in that space. If you want to do things, if you're calm and easygoing, the least amount of the time, you would put a 1 there. And if you want to do things accurately, if that's you most, not all the time, but most of the time, then you would put a 3 there. So you would rank each of these depending on what others say about you or how you perceive yourself to be. 4 being just about all the time, 1 being the least amount of time.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Are we scoring each item? Like say, for example, I'm lively and friendly. So is that the only thing that I'm scoring in that?
No, you score each one.
Okay, that's what I
Side,
thought.
like if you're lively and friendly, the majority of the time you would get
That
that a
would be
number
a
4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Hello, this is Valerie Brown. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Are we just jotting down these responses on a pad of paper or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I can't write the words down, but I can write the numbers down.
Yeah. Just write the numbers down to each one. Like say, for number 1, you would like maybe make 4 columns,
Yeah.
and then in each column you would
Okay.
yeah.
I made
Because
the columns.
Yeah, because you're going to have to add the columns up later,
Okay.
and that will give us a idea of what your highest score is in each column.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All righty.
Sorry, I should have made that clear in the direction. Okay, we got a little less than 2 minutes left. Okay, there's 1 minute left. Thirty seconds. Okay, time's up. So now you can add up the scores in each column. And after you get your total, then, you just write down, that number at the bottom of each column, like in the D, for example, in the D column, if your score, say, is 30, and then each subsequent columns, you write down your total. Okay. Guess I can move on from here because depending on what the numbers are. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the presentation. So transfer the totals that you got for each column from the DISC survey questionnaire and the total row of your DISC graph. Then, well, you wouldn't be circling this number, but you'd be writing it down in each of your DISC graph columns. Your primary style is the highest point on your graph and indicates what your preferred focus and comfort is. If D is your highest point, you like dominating problems. If I is your highest point, you love influencing people. If S is the highest, a steady pace in your environment is key. And if C is your highest, compliance with procedures is most important to you. Each primary style doesn't stand alone. It's flavored by what your second highest point is focused on as well. Low points show areas of life with the lowest need. Let's see.
Wait, Janet, how do we know which is the D column?
The D is the first column.
Okay.
First column is D. The second column is I. The third column is S. And the fourth column is C. So I am going to check. Let's see if I can check the chat. if some of you can just, you know, kind of put your, what you found in your, some of your results, if you could just like put in chat, put your name and put what your primary style or primary and secondary style.
Can you go back one slide?
Okay, did INS. Let me see. I see. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So at least this kind of gives you, when I start to go into more detail about this, you can kind of get an idea of where you are. Okay. And these styles, as we go along, sometimes depending on how you need to adapt your behavior, they can change. And that's what's different about DISC as opposed to MBTI. MBTI is more of a personality assessment, but DISC is a behavioral. And you can change your behavior depending on what's needed in an environment. According to, and why practice irresistible leadership? Well, there's a number of reasons to practice irresistible or masterful leadership. According to Gallup's State of the Global Workplace survey, only 33% of American workers are engaged. 50% are just showing up, and 17% actively are disengaged. And what's the cost of that disengagement? If you've got more than half of your workforce in some stage of disengagement, then you're going to have higher absentee rates, higher turnover, high recruitment and onboarding costs. And the people that are disgruntled there will poison your whole environment because they're disengaged. They don't really care about the job, and they are dismantling the team that you have put together. And people judge you the minute that they see you. They see your face and decide if it's friendly or not. Your overall energy, if your energy is positive and upbeat, or do you drain energy from others and making them work too hard to get a response from you? Is your image professional, casual, or sloppy? Irresistible or masterful leadership means you know how to make a first good impression, a positive impression, and it's critical to building rapport with everyone you meet. Everyone knows how to present their best, smile, use people's name when they during an initial interaction. But what really makes a lasting and positive impression and impact is to bring a high level of self-confidence to the interaction. Tune into the signals the other person is sending through their face, posture, gestures, words, and overall interactions with you. People don't tell you how to treat them, but they show you how to treat them. And being a masterful leader, do you know how to inspire people to achieve a goal? How do you give feedback to people for changing a behavior? Different styles require different styles of feedback. They require different communications. The way you deliver feedback might have to change depending on that person's behavioral style. Masterful leadership also requires that we're self-aware, that we're authentic, that we are interested in building and developing specific capabilities and skills, that we know our own character, our strengths, our qualities, being authentic and having impeccable character so that we can lead, inspire, and win wherever we go. It helps in setting clear goals so that not only you know what to do, but your teammates know what to do. It gives you a pathway to a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, which is a concept developed by Carol Dweck, an American psychologist at Stanford University. And today's workforce has different needs. In past generations, like baby boomers, they were concerned about their paychecks, satisfaction, my boss, my annual review, my weakness, and my job. But millennials and Gen Zs, they're more concerned with their purpose, their own self-development. They want to look at their manager or supervisor as also being a coach. They want ongoing conversations instead of just a one-off annual review. They want to talk about their strengths and how their purpose aligns with their life purpose. They want to see their jobs as being a contribution to society. What does a high performance and masterful leaders create high performing teams? So what does a high performing team look like? And a question that I wanted to ask was, I want you guys to think of some qualities that a irresistible or masterful leader would have. Think of a time like at a job that you've had where you really had a leader that embodied being a masterful leader, being a masterful manager, supervisor, the person in charge, and they really inspired you to do your best, to want to come to work and do your best job. High performing teams are people literate. Oh, let me plug in my computer before it goes off. Okay, high performing teams are people literate. They have, they're in touch with their IQ, which is aptitude and how we use our brain, EQ, which are our beliefs, mindsets, and emotions, and our PQ, which is understanding what drives and influences people's actions. High-performing teams lead with style. Resiliency, which is flexibility and engagement. Courage, determination, and faith. Intelligence, knowledge and skill. EQ, which is emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and expression. And perseverance, patient pursuit of goals. And irresistible, inviting, and persuasive. Now we come to the DISC model. It's a scientifically based system that identifies the needs, emotions, and fears that drive behavior. It's a graphic tool that helps us to understand why we do what we do. And it's a universal language to communicate with and understand people. It was developed by William Moulton Marston in the 1920s, and he wrote a book called Emotions of Normal People. And during that time, there were other psychologists and they were doing work with abnormal people. And he wanted to know what the behaviors of normal people were. He also created the character Wonder Woman. And like I said before, it's a needs-motivated, observable behavior system for identifying 4 distinct behavioral patterns: dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. When behaviors and what motivates them are in alignment, then we have personal synergy. When they're not, we experience personal conflict or tension. And the benefits of learning and applying DISC is that it makes communication highly effective. And effective communication is one of the most important aspects of human interaction, yet it's one of the most elusive. Our ability to communicate is our #1 asset. And so we've been taught for years to follow the golden rule, treat others the way we want to be treated. But in reality, we should be following the platinum rule, which is to treat others the way they want to be treated. And each of you kind of discovered where you were on in the questionnaire, and each of these styles comes with a preferred communication, such as communication do's and don'ts. And as we go on, you'll see that each of them has differences in pace, fast, slow, open, guarded, open and guarded. And I'll go into more detail with that as I go along. But the DISC profiles build effective teams. It resolves and prevents conflicts. And when we know and understand others' behavior, their interpersonal skills, communication preferences, behavioral strengths, and potential areas for improvement, this is a great tool for team building, either at work, at home, or in our community. I've given this assessment to my guys here in the house. And for years, I knew that my oldest son and my youngest son seemed to be really opposite. When we got ready to get on an escalator, one wanted to go up the escalator, one wanted to take the elevator. So I would have to remember every time we went somewhere what I did last. And I gave them this assessment, and sure enough, one was on one end and the other one had the complete opposite behavioral profile. And I was like, okay, I knew this all the time, but here's proof that what I thought all along was true. And observable behavior is what can be seen. So let's take this particular picture, for instance. We can make all kinds of assumptions about what's actually going on here. But what we might see is the lady in the foreground either seems to be checking something on her calendar, checking something in a report. The lady in the background standing up seems like she might be running the meeting, might be wondering what the lady in the foreground is doing. So we can, make assumptions about what's actually going on, but what we can do is observe what their behavior is. And what drives our behavior? Only 10% of our behavior is visible. The other 90% is invisible, and that's our thoughts, beliefs, mindset, and fears. However, this 10% that we can see gives us a lot of information about a person and their behavior. And the DISC model, as you can see, there's focus on task, focus on people, fast pace, slow pace, direct, and indirect. And there's a life focus for each primary DISC style. D's focus on problems to solve. I's focus on people to communicate with. S's focus on the pace of the environment. And C's focus on procedures to follow. And each has an open and guarded behavior. And the open and guarded are just what they sound like. Someone with the open behavior shows their feelings, their feelings and enthusiasm. They show those freely. They're more relaxed. They go with the flow. Their conversations include many digressions. They're opinion oriented. They have a friendly handshake, and they initiate and accept physical contact. Now the physical contact stuff is, and I know that now in our world of COVID that's not taking place right now. And so people that do like that, they may be having a hard time right now because they do like physical contact, hugging people, shaking hands. And so they might be struggling right now because that's not taking place. And on the other hand, we have people that have guarded behaviors. They're more formal and proper. They avoid or minimize physical contact. They have a limited range of facial expressions. They go with the agenda. Their conversation stays on task, and they speak in specifics. So I had to kind of be careful because I'm a hugger. And my son just sent me like a video of James Carden, who had a like intervention for huggers. And so they had to think of some different ways to express their affection for their friends and things without hugging and giving a high five and fist pounding. So they had to give air high fives and air hugs and things like that because they really missed that physical contact. And so these behaviors can be direct and indirect. Direct, they frequently use gestures and voice intonations to emphasize points. They're less patient, more competitive. They have they sustained eye contact, firm handshake, they're more likely to introduce themselves to others. And on the other hand, we have indirect behavior, infrequent use of gestures and voice intonation, more patient and cooperative, gentle handshake. They're infrequent contributors in groups, and they have reserved expression of opinions. And as we go along, you'll see that I'll explain that that the direct and indirect, open and guarded behaviors are associated with D, I, S's, and C's. DISC report word sketch. This is a part of a formal DISC report. And as you can see at the top, it says what the life focus of each style is. The 4 P's: problems, people, pace, and procedures. What each style needs. D's need control and authority. And then these are people that are high, that have numbers over the energy line in their profile. So these are people that express a high level of dominance, influence, steadiness, or conscientiousness. So D's need control. I's need social approval. S's need security and stable environment, and C's need accuracy and quality. And emotions. D's quick to anger, I's are optimistic and trusting, S's non-demonstrative, and C's fear of breaking the rules. Their fears. D's are fear being taken advantage of, I's fear being disapproved of or left out, S's fear loss of security or sudden change, and criticism of work or making mistakes is a fear of a C style. And as it said earlier, that we're a combination of styles. So I'm a high IS. So my profile and my fears and emotions and needs would be a combination of the C, the I, and the S. And this is the word sketch defined. And these are words that are associated with the different behaviors. The first column to the left is a D, I, S, and C. And a high D is opposite of someone that has low D. The low range of behavior, if you are low, then you're not expressing that particular energy. So someone that has a low D, they would be agreeing. Someone that has a high D would be argumentative, and so on for the rest of the styles. And this is a graph that can be seen in the DISC profile. The low is resistant to expressing that style, and the energy line is at 50. So if you're over 50, then you're expressing that particular type of behavior, and high, you're really expressing that particular type of behavior. And people will give you information about themselves on 3 different levels: verbal, vocal, and visual. And if you really start to practice, and an easy way to practice this, when you're looking at TV and you really become familiar with these styles, and after you get the recording, you kind of write down each of these styles and start to notice the behaviors of, say, people in some of your favorite TV programs. Who's the person that seems like they're in charge? Who's that person that that likes to keep things light, that's joking, and maybe the party person in the group, the person that everybody comes to tell their problems and helps them navigate through problems that they might be having. And then that person that might be the person that, if there's some money involved, they might be the ones that takes care of the house finances or the business's finance. The person that might be making investments, if it's like a business based story. But just kind of take note of, when you're watching TV, the behaviors of some of the people that you see on TV. And once you really familiarize yourself with these descriptions and you start to watch for these different kind of behaviors, then you'll start to see, oh, that person seems like a D style because they seem to take charge. They come on, they're kind of assertive. They are the first to speak up. they might be argumentative. These are some ways that you can practice people reading. And in your family, just notice these kind of behaviors amongst the members of your family. And then we have adapted style versus natural. And adapted style is your behavior in an environment where you feel you need to change your behavior, such as in a work environment. And a natural style is you in an environment where you feel that you can be yourself, or it's your default behavior when you're under stress. And if your adaptive style and your natural style are really similar, then it's a what you see is what you get. Your behavior is pretty much the same wherever you go. And if these graphs are very different, and those are the graphs that I showed earlier, these graphs, if these are very different, say if this person with the high D, if it was down here at 20 or 10 in their adapted style, and if at home it was at 70, then that might cause them some stress because they have that energy that they need to express. And if they've already reconciled that with themselves, that they don't have to have that be in charge of anything at work, then that's fine. But if they really need to express that need to be in charge and they're not doing that at work, that can be a cause of stress for that person. And if you really have to stretch your behavior, if this person was like a high DI at work, and if they were like a low DI at home, then that's a stretch, and that's a cause of stress, and that's not something that can be sustained over a long period of time. And I already mentioned the adaptive versus natural graphs. Like I was explaining, this person has a low C at their job, their adaptive style, and it's over the energy line in their natural style. So they may need to either have a conversation with their manager or a decision maker so that they can express this C style more at work. Because if they have this energy naturally, then it needs to be expressed so that they can get their needs met in their work environment. Now, I will talk about the descriptions of each of the behaviors. The dominant style, which is D, which I have as Lucy, because Lucy was always telling the rest of the peanut gang what to do. So what they do best, they take charge, they get things done. They're decisive, risk takers, fearless, and they ensure bottom line results. What's hard for them? Repetitiveness, being diplomatic, lots of rules and regulations, and opening up. They're pretty private about their personal matters, and they're not the best listeners. The influencing style, what they do best is inspire others to take action. These are your team cheerleaders. They think fast on their feet. They're full of ideas, but they can be impulsive in trying them. And they're good at promoting ideas, opinions, or ideas, opportunities, or people. What's hard for them? Restrictions or routine, formal reports, or keeping detailed records, routine, and redoing something once it's been done. The steadiness style, what do they do best? Bring harmony to group situations. They're friendly and sensitive. They're great listeners. They build network of friends to help do the work. They're cooperating and coordinating with others. The steadiness style is the glue that holds the team together. What's hard for them? Competition, working with dictatorial or unfriendly people, slow making big decisions. They dislike change and voicing contrary opinions. Now, you might start to see that some of these behaviors, there might be a little tension between the two. For instance, the D style is competitive, but the S style, that's hard for them. Competition is hard for them. So there might be a little tension there. So that person's profile that we saw that was a DS, they may be experiencing some personal tension. Part of them wants to be competitive, but the S is kind of keeping them from being competitive. So that might be a source of tension for them, and it's what we call a me-me conflict. The conscientiousness style, what do they do best? They're highly organized. They even plan spontaneity. They plan thoroughly before deciding to act. They're quick to think, but slow to speak. And they plan to meet specified expectations. They don't like working with unpredictable people or in disorganized environments. Being outgoing or open, they're closed about their personal matters. Working with others or in groups, they prefer to work alone. Incomplete, unclear directions. Now, you may have noticed that there may be some tension between an I and an S. This a I and a C. The I, not very organized. The C style, very organized. So there may be some tension there. But if you have a team and you've done these profiles for them and they all know, okay, I know I have to work with this set of people with these behaviors. Now we will try to do some team building projects that will have us be more familiar with how to adapt to each of the styles. And to have an effective team, a irresistible leader will create an effective team by making it diverse. Too many teams match the wrong people with the wrong job. Example, I worked in a lab. I loved the lab work itself, was not a fan of the paperwork part of it. So to give the paperwork charts and all of that, I did it because I had to. When I did my behavioral profile, when I was working in the lab, I had a higher C at work than I had at home. I had a higher C then than I have now because I needed that accuracy, that precision to do that lab work. But now that's a certain amount of accuracy is needed, but not like it would be in doing lab work. So if you have someone that likes to do that kind of thing, give them that job. There were people in the lab that loved charts and filling out all that kind of stuff, then that would be perfect for them. So if you assign your teammates tasks that fit their styles, and if members practice adaptability, the advantage of stylistic diversity can quickly outweigh the group's liabilities. The right people in the room makes things happen, and leveraging the strengths of others is a win-win for everyone.
Hey, Janet, we had one question come in from Jerry. Is there any research on what industry the most Ds are in? Can we assume there are more Ds in corporate America as CEOs and more S's and C's in nonprofits in higher ed?
I don't think there's been any formalized studies, but yes, that generally is true. The people that the CEOs that are in the C-suite more than likely are high Ds and high DIs, because they need that bottom line way of thinking, big problems, bottom line, get to the point. They need that style, and that their jobs require that style. So yeah, and I have done profiles for people, say like in healthcare and in the educational field or profession, and I do find a lot of like SCs in education and in the healthcare field. So yeah, yep, because there's a gentleman, he teaches people how to like market themselves, and he always talks about talking to Vito, and Vito is a very important top officer. So yeah, there is a way that is true, that a lot of the CEOs are high Ds. And there's a gentleman, he defines the different styles. He uses birds. Ds are eagles, Is are parrots, S's are doves, and C's are owls.
Great.
So D's I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's one more question, but there's a good
Okay.
stopping point. Kimberly said she assumes that there's going to be crossover of some of these traits, perhaps
Yes.
depending on the situation.
Yes, there will be, depending on how you need to adapt your style. And most of us are a combination of styles. So how you are in a situation where you feel that you do need to change your behavior would be an adapted style, and then you have your natural style. I see that I only have like 4 more minutes here. So, and I'm more than willing to stay past the 5 o'clock to finish the presentation. So I might just skip to the adaptability. For D styles, you have to be clear, specific, stick to the point. I's, give them the spotlight and create an atmosphere of excitement. S's, give them opportunity to contribute to the entire group, be patient, respond to their questions and concerns. And C's, be prompt, prepared, and precise, and allow them time to think, be comfortable with silences. And to adapt, and these are adaptive practices for people that have this style. And for D's, they need to practice active listening, project a more relaxed image, and verbalize compliments to others. They need to develop the virtues of patience, tolerance, and empathy. I just want to say a quick thing about the character virtues. D's are naturally assertive and courageous. I's are naturally friendly and trusting. S's are naturally patient and loyal. And C's are naturally conscientious and have integrity. And the virtues, you can look those up on a website called thevirtuesproject.org. And there's 100 virtues, and it gives you a place to look when you want to adapt your style to others, or you want to take on we use the character virtues to be able to adapt our style, because each of the character virtues comes with things to practice in order to adapt your style. And D, and to adapt, I styles need to control time and emotion, spend more time verifying, specifying, and organizing, which, who does that sound like? That sounds like a C style. So they need to take on more of the C behavior. It would, it helps them. And so the virtues they need to develop is diligence, perseverance, and self-discipline. S's need to say no occasionally, complete tasks without an sensitivity to others' feelings, take risks beyond their comfort zone, and to develop the virtues of assertiveness, flexibility, and courage. C's need to show open appreciation, try shortcuts and time savers, adjust more readily to change and disorganization, and develop the virtues of forgiveness, trust, and joyfulness. The leadership journey begins with people literacy for a people smart world, a world that works for 100% of humanity. And one of my favorite quotes is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Dr. Maya Angelou. And I made it. Go back to this. I think I'll
Thank you,
stop
Janet.
share.
Yeah, if anyone has any more questions, feel free to chat them in, or since we're dwindling it down, you can unmute and share.
Yes, please unmute and share. And if anybody has any questions now or later, oh, I didn't show the last slide. It has my contact information. Well, everybody's going to get a recording of this, right?
Right, Janet. And I can, if you'd like, I can share your contact information.
Okay,
in that email
thank you.
too. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. So if anybody has any questions now or a week from now, you think of something, feel free to email me, send me a text, call me. I love providing people with information, and just, reach out to me. That'll be great. So if you have any more questions, I love DISC and I love assessments, period. I'm kind of an assessment geek. I've taken a number of different assessments, and I am pretty much the same across the board, no matter whether it's MBTI, DISC. Let's see, I took something else not too long ago, but anyway, my behavior is pretty much the same regardless of the profiles I've taken. So I would be dancing in the aisles and hugging people no matter what.
Thank you, Janet. That was, and as everyone's saying, this was very informative. I think your presentation gave me, and I'm sure others, the opportunity to just reflect with our own style. And I was also thinking through colleagues that I work with. I was also thinking of my husband and how,
yes.
and in the kind of situational times where I lean one direction over the other. So this was very helpful. Thank you for bringing this information, your expertise to us tonight. I think we all have now kind of armed and equipped with a lot of great stuff to carry with us forward. So thank you so much.
Well, you're all so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And
Thank
like
you.
I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you all for joining. Have a good evening.